What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 341 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and of course viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, presented by Shootout For Soldiers, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast network, where we only have 4 people as a member of our team. And those are yours truly, KB, the one and only Coach Deej, the one and only Chase, a.k.a. the PLL Pipeline, and our guy Hoots. That's OTB in a nutshell, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Just kidding. We got a lot to recap on this one, including the PLL Championship, Street Lacrosse, the end-of-year awards ceremony, which I was fortunate enough to get the invite to, Media Day, and the NLL Draft, where, you know, the headline from Stamper's article recap of the NLL Draft says the rich get richer. Well, Deej, this podcast keeps getting richer because we got the number 1 overall pick coming to Philadelphia, and what a time it is to have access to the one and only Brennan O'Neill week in and week out, all winter and spring long. We'll get into that as well. But before we get started, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTB LaxPod across the board, every single social media platform. Follow Deej at SCS_Next Great. Follow Chase at the PLL Pipeline. Follow Hoots at Hoots Sports Media. And you can follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the pod. We have gotten some new subscribers since our last episode. And I know we said last week that Sammy Adams would be on this episode. Well, guess what? We had a ridiculously hectic week across the board with our day jobs and jobs in general. And Sammy Adams announced on his Instagram that his lady is pregnant. So he's also off with his lady doing family man things. So we will have Sammy Adams on again. It's probably just not going to be this particular week. But let me tell you, the guest list we have lined up over the next couple of weeks, Hachi Machi, you're not ready for it. And that includes Sammy Adams. So be ready for it. But subscribe to the pod, Apple, Spotify, leave a 5-star rating and review. And of course, subscribe to both the Underground Sports Philadelphia and Outside the Box podcast YouTube channels. It's at Underground Sports Philadelphia and at OTB LaxPod on YouTube. The Underground Sports Philadelphia channel is where you get full video episodes of this show every single week, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. We are currently at 842 subscribers, on the road to 900, on the road to 1,000. The end of year goal is 1,000 plus, so let's make that happen. Hit the like button on the video, leave a like on the video, drop a comment in the comment section, and of course, click the bell icon so you know when new videos go live. And this show is proudly presented by our good friends over at Shootout For Soldiers, who are heading to Colorado, Deej. They are going out west for the first time in a long time. I want to pull up all the information here. Very excited for Shootout For Soldiers to head out west. And they are taking Shootout For Soldiers to the people in Colorado in October, I believe. Pulling it up here. Yes, October 19th. So they are bringing Shootout For Soldiers to Colorado at Eagle County Fairgrounds Sports Complex just west of Vail, Colorado on October 19th in partnership with 10th Mountain Lacrosse Club. They'll be hosting men's 18 and up games from 1700 o'clock to 1900 o'clock that day. Register at shootoutforsoldiers.com or through the link in their bio. We will also throw it in our bio on social media, and feel free to DM them with any questions. But 10th Mountain Lacrosse, Vail, October 19th. It's going to be an awesome time. And what a way to kick off their fall swing. Then going back out west. Obviously, they've been out east all summer. So they're taking the show on the road out west. Visit their website, register. Link will be in our bio by the time you guys are listening to this. It is in their bio as well. Follow Shootout For Soldiers on Instagram at Shootout For Soldiers, and on Twitter, it's at SFS Lacrosse. They are truly the best. They had an unbelievable summer this year, and we were happy to be a part of it and promoting everything possible. We still have a lot more coming out, a lot more Hero of the Week spotlights that will be coming out on our socials very, very soon. And Shootout for Soldiers is the presenting sponsor of the Outside the Box podcast. Deej, we have history in the PLL. The Utah Archers are your 2024 PLL champions, the first repeat champions since 2019-2020. First full season repeat champions ever. And what a performance it was by the Utah Archers in the championship game. This game had it all. It had a lacrosse head fall off the stick on a two-pointer. And I just want to say, while I was at the end of year awards dinner with our good media pals, hanging out with Kevin Boylard, Poolski, Rosie, Dan Arestia, who else was there with us? I'm blanking on one person. Oh, Kevin Brown and Terry. I was talking to Boylard and Rosie, and I said, I think this game's going to come down to whichever rookies show up in the championship game, because it is it is the most rookies that have ever played in a PLL championship game in league history. There were 8 across the board. Could have been 9 if Cam Wires wasn't able to go, and it would have been Colby Bars. But we had 8 guys that were rookies in this game. Leading scorer for the Whipsnakes with 4 assists, leading to 4 points, TJ Malone, your rookie of the year. Who else performed at a high level? First-year starter Brendan Krebs, over 50% save percentage for the Whips. But then, the Jew skull of all Jew skulls, Mason Woodward. 2-pointer in transition. That changed the whole script of the game as the Whipsnakes were on a run, and then Woody just goes coast to coast and is like, nah, I got this. I'm gonna take this in my own hands and show everybody, you shouldn't have been doubting me on draft night. And my, oh my, was that one of the sickest goals of the game. Dyson Williams also scored with like 0.8 seconds to go in the first half, gets a goal on the board. Jackie Overtime played in this game. It was a loaded rookie, dominant performance on both sides of the ball. Both teams had their rookie show out, and the Archers inevitably come out on top because of, for the first time in PLL history, back-to-back championship game MVP, Brett Dobson.
And this game, we were both right. We were both right, because when I finally got to Philly on Saturday, we went out to Street Lacrosse. Dan Arestia was there, ran into him. Me and him talked a little bit, about awards and some other things going on at the end of the year. Championship comes up. He said he's taking the Whips because he felt like they were playing really good ball. They had things going their way, and that their invert game was just crazy. And I was like, I'm glad you brought up the invert game, because that is where I think this game is won and lost. And I was like, whoever's short stick D mids are going to show up and play are going to be the ones to win this game. I was like, Archers, they like to run from up top, run a lot through their midfield and just have guys dodging down and then set up the attack from there. Whereas Whipsnakes love to invert. The Archers love to invert as well. They just don't do it as often. But these are two teams who generally run through their midfielders. So that means your short stick D mids are going to have to be ready to play ball, because sure, their attackmen are going to dodge, but nowhere near as much as their middies. And you saw it. There were 2 very crazy defensive things that happened in this game. One was the Whipsnakes penalty kill staying perfect on the year.
That's insane.
Insane to do. Truly insane to do.
Shout out PT Richie, man.
But when you look at the way they do it and the way they switch between a 4-man and 5-man rotation, it makes it very easy to be perfect, because what seems to be there to an offense is not really there because of how they rotate, which completely throws off the way the offense has to run their play and ultimately makes the defense much more effective. The other thing was Whipsnake short sticks scored 0 goals out of the invert and against other short sticks. The short stick D-mids for Archers were fantastic. And that was the reason why they ended up pulling away and winning this game. So I said it was going to come down to short stick D-mid play. You said it was going to come down to rookies. Both those things rang out to be true, which means only one thing. Outside the box.
We outside.
Knows ball.
I also said that it felt like all year, and we talked to Matt DeLuca about it after he came on the show. Like, it felt like a Whip Snakes year. They did get to the championship, but then I said, I don't know. I feel like the play of the Archers throughout the playoffs has been an unreal thing to watch, and it was that. The Archers held their playoff opponents to 9 goals total. Because 1 goal on Long Island, 8 in the championship game. They got ice cream for the playoffs. Not just one game. For the playoffs, they got ice cream. Your boy, and now friend of the pod, Bo Pedersen, showed out. 4 ground balls in this game. 11 touches. 1 caused turnover. That was huge. That led to a goal. Bo was fantastic in this game as a rookie. Mason Woodward was phenomenal in this game, both offensively and defensively. And it's pretty telling that Media Day got the OTB bump going once again, because everyone that came on the pod at Media Day had a part in making this game unbelievable. Rambo scores the first goal. Bo Pedersen gets the cause turnover and gets the ball off the faceoff that leads to an assist. Ryan Ambler got an assist in this game and drew the penalty that iced the game. Longtime friend of the pod. Mac O'Keefe, how you doing? Led the Archers in scoring with a hat trick. The boys showed out. And of course, Batesy comes out on top and goes back to back and is only the second coach ever to have 2 PLL titles to his credit and in his trophy case. And Mac O'Keefe is the winningest player in terms of championships in PLL history. 3 titles in 4 years is crazy.
Technically, he ain't never lost one.
He lost 1.
Yes, he did. Actually, yeah, he did. He lost the one in
22.
2022. Yep.
Before he left to go to the Archers in free agency. But he's been to 4 straight and has won 3 out of 4.
Just insane, right?
He's a big-time player. He and Brett Dobson, when the lights come on for a championship game, they evolve. They digivolve. They go Super Saiyan mode, whatever anime analogy you want to make. They turn from Yugi into the Pharaoh. Like, they are just on another plane when championship game is on their schedule. Those 2 in particular, because we've seen it. Dauber to go 71.4% on a championship stage is wild. And he was phenomenal as the game went on. And he is the type of player too. And I know we say this about goalies a lot. It's like when you miss shots or, you get shots off, if you're the opponent and they don't go in and you kind of warm the goalie up, you miss like 2 shots on Dauber. Good luck. Because as the game progresses, he is just a demon the later into the game it goes. And he was fantastic in this game, deserved that MVP of the game. And it is crazy to think that if the Whip Snakes did end up winning, we were talking in the press box, Ryan Conrad had a good shot at being the MVP of the game because he had a hat trick and he wasn't on this team until late in the season and would have gone from the basement all the way to championship game MVP, which would have been wild. Ryan Conrad was awesome in this game, and it shows you what having championship pedigree players on your roster does when you're playing in a championship game. Rambo didn't have some shots fall, but he got the game going, and it felt like the Whip Snakes had that early momentum because of it. The the defense for the Whip Snakes was great. I think Matt Dunn and Tim Muller did their job. And I think the one mistake, I don't know if you agree, but Stags kind of talked about it, like their goal was to shut down Grant Ament and Connor Fields. When, in my book, if you know what Mac O'Keefe is capable of doing when he has his hands free at any moment, especially in a championship game, he's somebody I'd also be targeting. And they kind of let Mac do his thing. But at the end of the day, I don't think it was a boring game. I just think the Archers pulled away late. I mean, it was tied 5-5 at halftime. It could have gone any way out of the half. Thoroughly entertaining. And another rookie that we didn't even mention, Adam Patra, had 2 goals in this game. Summer of Patra. Shout out to Sarah Griffin. He was fantastic. I thought it was a good game, but the Archers just showed that they had the experience on the championship stage more recently, and most of that team as a unit have played in a championship game more recently than the Whip Snakes.
For me, it was not as exciting of a game. Like, there were times where I was like, is this a championship game? But there were other times where I was like, they're playing for everything in the world. And obviously to them, they're going to tell you, and it's always going to feel like a championship game if you're in it. So I don't expect them to feel kind of what we felt, but watching it didn't quite have the energy and the ups and downs and the drawing factor that other championship games have had. But it was one of those games where it was kind of like anything could happen. It literally felt like anything could happen. And it was just a position where the Archers wanted it more. That's kind of what it came down to, is the Utah Archers wanted it more than, the Whip Snakes did. I didn't see any disadvantage in not focusing on Mac O'Keefe. My thing there is, when you look at the trajectory of their season and their offense and how it was played, it was run through Tom Schreiber, Grant Ament, and Connor Fields. So the idea is you slow those guys down, you slow down their entire offense. And to an extent, that worked. They did slow down the Archers' offense. They didn't put up as many goals that they have been putting up this year, and didn't quite have that same firepower that we're used to their offense having. But you have to put out on the offensive end as well, on the opposite side, and they didn't have enough there. I think that their plan actually worked. I think limiting Connor Fields and Grant Ament slowed this offense down enough for the Whip Snakes to be competitive, which is what they wanted. If you really listen to that answer, it was pretty much Stag saying, we know we can't stop these guys, but if we slow them down, I trust our offense enough to have us in this game and we possibly pull it off. That was their mindset, and to me, it worked. This was a much closer game than some people would have anticipated. This is a much closer game than probably the Archers wanted it to be, but that was all due to the game plan and the schematics of a great coaching staff that Stags has built. And this isn't the first time we've seen him do things like this. So I definitely don't think there were any mistakes made, just that Mac O'Keefe decided to make it happen. Like, it pretty much was we're daring Mac O'Keefe to be a star player. We know Connor Fields is going to get his. We know Grant Ament is going to get his. Let's limit those guys. Let's force it out of their hands as much as possible. Can Connor Fields and can Mac O'Keefe, Matt Moore, Trey LeClaire, Dyson Williams, etc. beat us? Or are we going to be able to stop them enough to come out with the win? Thought it was a greatly coached game. That's what made this game kind of boring. It was a chess match in coaching. It was all about the coaching decisions that were made out there from both sides. I thought both sides did well in the coaching, but when it comes down to it, there's a guy out there that is on a different echelon of the rest of the coaches. And I'm not talking head coaches in terms of like being a head coach to your coordinators. I'm talking just being a lacrosse coach. The things that Coach Resch has done with his defense over the last, couple of years, and then you couple that with the success he had in the MLL, he might be the best coach, regardless of status, we have ever seen in the game of lacrosse, because of how efficient he is and how he's able to take any kind of players and find a system that works for him, but doesn't devalue what he finds to be important in lacrosse and on defense.
Which is why I wanted him to be the Water Dogs.
Caps off to Reshi.
Like
caps off to Reshi.
He's a dog. And I mean, I also want to Fieldsy had 2 points too. Came on media day, so shout out to Fieldsy. When he scored, I was so happy for him, man. Because obviously everything that happened last year and wasn't able to play, like when he got that first goal, I was like, let's fucking go, bro. But happy for the Archers. Shout out to the Whipsnakes. Like they gave it their best shot. It's not like they didn't play well. They got overmatched as the game progressed. And it's crazy that like this Whipsnakes team's not going anywhere. They'll have some guys retire or potentially leave in free agency. But for the most part, the core of this team is still relatively young or in their prime, and they're going to be hanging around for a long, long time, especially if they're led by the one and only Rookie of the Year, TJ Malone, because that dude's just different.
I mean, I remember, calling out TJ Malone week 3 or 4 going, hey, we need to start having the conversation about how good this guy is, how he's changed, the Whipsnakes offense and allows them to have some freedom, not only at attack, but at midfield as well. And then brought up, the chance. I think a week or 2 later, I was like, I love Brennan, but Malone need to be in this Rookie of the Year conversation. I know Shelly is Shelly and Brennan is Brennan, but buddy, TJ is Malone.
He was different week in and week out, and that was the difference.
Yes, and it showed every single week. He played 13 weeks this year. 14 total games, I believe that is.
I'll double check.
Or no, sorry, 13 weeks, 13 total games.
Yeah.
And I have no words for how good he was. He was the propelling part.
He had 50 points for the entirety of the season, including the playoffs, which
only a handful of people have done.
I saw the boys at TLN post that stat out there. It was him and Jeff Teat that did that this year. And like, I don't care what you say about, including playoff stat. No, like that's the entirety of dude's season. 6 teams make it to the playoffs and you have a chance to make your season that much better. I enjoy coupling your regular season and your postseason set. We did it a couple years ago with Kieran, when it was Kieran and Lyle Thompson who led the league in points. Lyle didn't make it to the playoffs, so when you include the postseason, a couple years ago, Kieran McCardle led the PLL in points. That's just a fact. And the fact that you had a third-round rookie, I don't care if you say, he fell in the draft, whatever it may be, he went in the third round. You had a third-round rookie on the Whipsnakes put up 50 points in a season. That's different. That's a different type of player. And after hearing TJ at the end of year award ceremony talk about how he had 3 hip surgeries a couple years ago and almost wasn't going to be able to continue playing unless he talked to Grant Ament, and Grant Ament said, hey, fuck what everyone's saying. You know what you're capable of. Go do it. Now you have the Rookie of the Year in the PLL doing things like this. Like, come on, man. That's just a different mentality and a different type of player, and I'm excited to watch TJ Malone for the next decade plus in this league just tear it up because he's awesome.
Yeah, he's going to be exciting to watch, and mainly because he can adapt to who's around him, but also is able to help the players around him adapt and enhance their games. Like, I'm going to be honest, Rambo ain't looked like that since 19, 20.
I would say,
and I feel
he
like
had it parts of 21, and then when he got hurt was when it all changed, when he broke his hand.
And I don't even know. I mean, yeah, there were some times,
and that was early in the year that year.
Like he looked really good, like times in 21 where like he looked good, but like this year he looks like Matt Rambo. Zed Williams had a chance to actually just play lacrosse and vibe without having to feel like there was a ton of pressure on him to perform. The midfield, they would have been 1,000 times better if Tucker wasn't hurt.
Could you imagine if Tucker was in this game? If Brad Smith was healthy?
A lot of things change if the midfield is healthy. Like, and a big part of that is how calm he makes all of them, and he does it so, like, I don't wanna say effortlessly, but, like, it looks like it comes very easy to him. He doesn't try too hard, a very similar to Jeff Teat, how he just lets the game come to him. TJ doesn't go seeking for anything. He accepts what the defense gives him, and then he makes a play from there. He's going to be one of the best attackmen year in and year out until he's done playing in the PLL.
Yeah, I mean, to circle back to Matt Rambo, like 2019, obviously he was different. He had 42 points for the Whip Snakes, had 25 points in the bubble, and then he got injured in 2021, only played 6 games, but he still had 18 points. 2022, he definitely bounced back from a goal scoring perspective where he had 21 goals. And then last year he had 25 points, and it was kind of like a weird year for Matt Rambo. Like, he was productive, but it didn't feel that way. This year, Matt was like, he didn't have to have the ball in his stick. And he talked about that in the post-game press conference, where it was a different year for him and he embraced it, and he didn't have to have the ball in his stick to be a productive player. Only had 18 points, but I think Matt Rambo delivered in other categories that you didn't necessarily need him to be scoring the ball as often as he has in the past. And I think he's only going to get better the more acclimated he gets to playing with TJ.
I think it's just an adjustment because, like, he's always kind of been the guy that has to have the ball in their hands and dodge and create. Whereas, like, here, he's just there to help. He's there to finish. He's there to shoot. He's there to open up space for TJ. So it's an adjustment for him that I think he will only be able to excel in, because playing off ball is a lot easier than playing with ball. When you got the ball, you have to make all the decisions, and when you're leading the offense like that, when things go wrong, it's on your back, and then people turn questions to you. Now it's kind of like, hey, I'm here so that when you run into trouble, I'm here to have your back, and it's a little less stress on him, which will allow him to just be himself and play the best parts of a Matt Rambo game.
100%. And I mean, the Whip Snakes aren't going anywhere. The Archers certainly aren't going anywhere. And I'm excited to see where these two teams, their trajectory just continues to go, because they have two of the best head coaches as well. And I think two of the best overall coaching staffs in the league. Super happy for Coach Bates, Coach Resch, and Coach Cav. Like, those guys are the best, and Batesy and Coach Cav are huge supporters of this show. And I'm sure if we had 10 seconds with Tony Resch, he certainly would be as well. Also, shout out Pat Resch and his wife. They're having a baby, so new Resch entering Resch Bowl. But I mean, hey, as Brett Dobson said, let's raise another fucking banner. Like, they are turning into that gold standard. And I think, pre-Coach Tierney, we only had a couple teams in the PLL that really had that, and we were talking about the Water Dogs in that vein for a little bit. We talked about the Whip Snakes early on in that vein, and right now it's the Archers, who are kind of like that top dog that everybody's gunning for, and they're kind of rewriting what the standard is for the PLL and how you win. And I think, like we mentioned it in press conferences, we talk about it on the show, it's crazy that it's kind of started with two young short stick D middies that really, like, gave this Archers team a facelift, with Piper Bond and Connor Marr. And, Treasy was in there last year, and then Bo Pedersen steps in. Like, that's the other thing. The Archers did all of this without Tom Schreiber and without Latrell Harris. They didn't have Treasy all year, but they had another rookie step into that short stick D midi room and absolutely dominate all season long. And our guy Joe Keegan tweeted this yesterday. The second round of the 2023 PLL draft has been, we always talk about, what's one of the best rounds in PLL draft history. This second round of last year's draftee just turned it into something pretty special pretty quick. Keeks tweeted, the second round of the 2023 draft has now produced a first-team All-Pro midfielder, a second-team All-Pro short stick D midi, a 20-plus goal scorer, and a two-time champion short stick D midi, to which I also added 2 perfect games at the stripe. And Keeks texted me back, ... LOL. I was like, hey, facts are facts. But that second round, Matt Campbell, stud. Brian Tevlin, stud. Xander Dixon, stud. Troy Hettinger, who's still sticking around on a roster. Kudos to him. Connor Marr, stud, 2-time champ. Petey LaSalla, Brian Minikis, and Alex Mazzone. It's a pretty damn good second round.
I mean, I think most second rounds are pretty comparable to that one. And like we've talked about multiple times,
Quickness of how much they've produced already.
I still think that's pretty, like, to me, it's on point. Like, you're talking the top 16 players in every draft. Like, they should be that good. I know it's like small sample size in the last few years and everything, but like realistically, the top 16 guys should be coming in making immediate impact of some sort. Like we talked about the last couple of years, it's the third and fourth round. Those are the guys that are really making the differences in the PLL because your top guys across the league, your stars are your stars. You got a few on every team that are making it pop. You got your first and second round picks every year that you're slotting right into your lineup that are helping and making those immediate impacts. But it's those third and fourth rounders that are coming in that are making your roster that you're sliding on, and they come and have that impact. Those are the ones that have really been stealing the show and helping lead teams to, do things that people weren't ready for. So that's where like the real steals are. I think the bigger notice is a guy like Troy Hettinger. Like, and nothing against him. He's an amazing guy and he's out here making it work, sticking on rosters where he can. But like that pops out a lot more. Is like you were the one guy in this 16 player group that couldn't quite produce like everybody else. Like that's a bigger eyesore than Xander Dixon having 30 goals this year or close to it. Like I'm sorry, I'm expecting him to have 30 goals because that's the kind of player he is. I'm expecting Connor Marr to come in and be one of the best short stick D-mids. You drafted him in the second round. Like guys that get drafted in the first and second round, I'm expecting them to come in and do what they do. It's the third and fourth round guys that really make the shine.
Well, I'll say for comparison's sake, 2021, second round, this is what it looks like. Jack Keelty, still playing, obviously, but he was injured this year, right?
Yeah.
So
got injured in training camp.
Jake Carraway has now retired, unfortunately. Danny Logan, pretty good player, if I do say so myself. I think you'd agree. Ryan Tarafanko, another pretty damn good player, front of the pod. Trey LeClaire, pretty damn good. But here's where it gets a little iffy in the 2021 second round. And this is no offense to those guys. It's just how it shakes out. Round 2, pick 6, Kyle Gallagher. Don't believe he's in the league anymore. Tanner Cook, who I think you and I both agree that if there was more teams in the league, he's one of those guys that would be playing in the PLO. Just not a spot for him on this new restructured Chaos team. And then round 2, pick 8 is now on his second or third team, Ryan Tierney. Is it a second or third? I know it's Blips, but I forget if
I'm not sure. My thing is offensively, that's a much tougher conversation to have due to the offensive talent in the league. It's a little bit tougher to stick around offensively. And like when you look at that draft we were just talking about, the second round of this, not this past season, but the season before,
2023,
a lot of defense in there, and like there was some turnover indeed. Like to me, it seems like, outside looking in, the leashes with defensemen are a little longer than they are with, those on the offensive end. Mm. So if you're not literally a top 10 guy in that locker room, tough luck. And you got 3 games to prove it outside of training camp. If you're lucky, it's tough. And I don't envy anyone in that position whatsoever.
Yeah. But hey, kudos to the Archers. Shout out to the boys. Ryan Ambler, Connor Fields, Mac O'Keefe, former, current, and new friends of the pod, Bo Pedersen as well, which we're in talks. Connor Fields will be coming on the show very soon. He's very eager to come on the show. Matt Rambo will be coming on the show soon. He's extremely eager to come on the show, even though we've been trying for the last 6 years, Rambo. Very excited for that. Deej, before we keep it pushing, talk a little street lacrosse, want to talk to everybody about the PLL app and our app code. Make sure you guys fill out the surveys that are in the app right now. Also, just want a disclaimer. We just pump this so that our code gets used. The PLL does not pay us to advertise the app. We are just willing to do it. But we have an app code, and that's valuable to us. So that's why we always pump that.
Somebody thought we was getting paid?
No, I just wanted it out there to let everybody know.
I was just wondering. That
would be funny, though.
That would be hilarious.
But hey, we are open to that. But fill out those surveys in the PLL app because they genuinely will help Brendan Coleman, friend of the pod, and the entire tech team at the PLL make the app an even better experience for next season, this off season, and moving forward. They are super valuable. Plus, you get XP for filling out the surveys. But the PLL app is a game changer. You literally have everything you need for the PLL in the palm of your hand with the app. So download the app, go to the redeem code section as well. Type in OTBPOD, OTB pod for 500 XP on your account. It helps the PLL see that our app code is getting used, and we're going to be working with BC a ton this off season to better integrate OTB and everything into the app as much as we possibly can. So stay tuned for that. But download the PLL app, type in OTBPOD for 500 XP in the redeem code section of the app. Deej, Street Lacrosse happened, and we were around some of our favorite humans on earth.
Ever. And it was such a great time. I that's the thing that I liked about the event is the welcoming environment and just the music, the joy, the laughs, the screaming, all of it was fun. The games were great. There were podcasts there. There was food there. Everything that you needed to have an event like this was there. It was perfect. Everyone was happy to be there. The weather was nice. It was just one of those things that made me look around and go, I'm blessed to be here. The just being able to be here, have the opportunity to be there, and the resources and such to be there. I couldn't have been happier. Jeffrey Wright, Paul Rabel, Mike Rabel, Romar, Brennan O'Neill, Sowers, Jared Connors, TD, Cross, Flavor Flav, that is.
Jason Kelsey,
Kayla Wood,
Tony Reale,
Chuck, Kay Adams. The list just goes on and on.
Rich Kleiman from Boardroom,
on and on and on and
Josh
on.
Richards.
We were there.
OTB was in the building.
Josiah Johnson was there. Literally everybody was there, and the vibes were at an all-time high. There wasn't anybody who was upset they were there. There wasn't anybody who couldn't feel the immaculate energy of street lacrosse that was there.
No free ads, but the homies from Cash App were there.
This is one of those opportunities that is genuinely going to help the sport of lacrosse grow as street lacrosse events continue to pop up across the country.
Dog, the way that I know it's possible, and it's just a matter of planning it properly, the way that we could do this in our communities and pull off a street lacrosse event would be so sick. That is on my bucket list, is to have some of the local PLL pros down here, some of them up by you, and us be able to do it in conjunction with the PLL. And it's just such a doable thing because it is so simplistic of just the tools you need, and just getting the funding behind it is the hard part. It was such an awesome vibe, and every moment you turned your head, there was a new like big name celebrity or somebody in the lacrosse community that pulled up. Finally got to meet Hayden and his good hair. Shout out to the boy. It was dope, and the energy was at an all-time high, and it was just really cool seeing kids that are so close to me community-wise come into Philadelphia, into the city, no less. It's not the main line, it's not the suburbs. It was in Philly. It was by Pat's and Gino's. It was at a historic playground. Like, it was really cool to kind of just watch the community like come together, like right in my backyard, pretty much. Like, Philadelphia is my second home, and to see just so many kids like be able to have that impact and just have a day where like, hey, we can just be kids and have fun and like hang out with our friends, be around people that we may not even know who they are, but I know they have some sort of status, was really, really cool. And I got to meet Jason Kelsey for 0.5 seconds, clapped him up for the second time in my life, and my life was made. I dapped him up at the Super Bowl parade.
I wasn't even gonna. Yeah. I was about to talk about how like the joy I saw on kids' faces when they like, because the first game was like a game between all the pros and the guys in the PLL and everything, and the celebrities they had playing.
And the women's Unleashed too,
Yeah,
which was sick.
Yes, yes,
Shout
I
out
agree.
to our future friend of the pod, Lizzie Colson.
But when they got done with that game, they all came over and were talking to the kids and everything. They started to sit with them. You could see how excited the kids were to have a Trevor Baptiste or a Romar or a TD, somebody like that, right in front of them that they could talk to. You know, seeing kids clamor around Brennan O'Neill and ask for autographs. And then, you know, those guys went, before I signed, like, do you mind if I watch this next game with you? And then just sit down in the bleachers with these kids. Like, they loved that. And that's what this is really all about, is showing how good the game of lacrosse can be for kids, how much it can offer kids, what it can give kids, and just that sense of healing. Like, this weekend was such a healing weekend. Lacrosse is truly a game of medicine. And this weekend, it served medicine, not only to me, but to thousands of people this weekend got that touch of medicine.
Yeah, and it was sick. Like, this whole weekend too was like very eye-opening for me to see like where the pod kind of reaches, because Michael Sowers is the boy. I've been a Michael Sowers fan for such a long time, especially because he's from Philly. Like, he's from near where I am from. Michael Sowers grew up like an hour away from me. And he's one of those guys we get to cover him week in and week out. And he feels like one of those guys that like you think he knows who you are, but you're not exactly sure if he does. And I'm at the end of year awards, and I walk up, and Sowers is talking to Mike Rabel, our guy. I clap up Mike, and then Michael Sowers is like, "Yo, what's up, bro?" Like, claps me up and like fully knows who I am. And then at Street Lacrosse, we're talking and just having awesome conversation, to which has led to Michael Sowers is going to be coming on the podcast very soon, ladies and gentlemen. But it was really cool to know that like Michael Sowers like knows the pod, knows who I am, and it's like one of those things that like some of the guys in the league, like obviously they know who we are. They've come on the show, or they just like they give you that sign of respect because they see you in a press conference. But then there's some guys that are elite and you don't know. And Michael Sowers, for the longest time for me, has felt like one of those guys where it's like, does he know who I am? Does he know what the pod is? And to kind of like get that moment of like clarity this weekend was so sick. Humble brag. Yes, Michael Sowers is one of the best players on the planet, and he's from Philly, so I'm going to brag about that. But it was awesome, like seeing that and like seeing you chop it up with TD. And it was just kind of like, oh, sick. Like, these guys like have a sense of knowing like who's covering their sport and are cool talking to them in non-PLL weekend environments. And kind of just like being on that same level with them was awesome the entire weekend.
It was more than awesome. We do that. They don't know how often we do this with each other, but like, things like this happen, and we just go, man, like, it's happening. Like we having the reach we want to have. We're opening this game up to people that want to hear it, and then because of the reach we're having, people want to come on this pod and they want to share their experiences and their time with lacrosse and their story with everybody who's tuned in with us and wants to share so that more people can be involved in this game. We get reminders of that all the time.
I mean, Matt Rambo walked into media day being as soon as he walks in and gets off the podium from the press conference portion, goes up to Grace and Nick and says, "I want to go on with the Underground Philly guys." Like that's insane to me. Like Matt Rambo is a guy who I knew who he was before I even started covering lacrosse. Again, a Philly guy. But I'm just like, the fuck?
Us?
He choosing us over everybody?
You said us? You us? Man, bro, like that's what it's like being out in like. All right. As all of you guys know, I didn't make it to media day because I was here with my day job. As also, as you guys know,
FOMO ever.
Yes, bro, horrible FOMO. As you guys also know, I'm thoroughly convinced. Was thoroughly convinced.
Forgot about this.
That a certain coach in the PLL didn't like me all so much because he laughed at every single question I've ever asked.
And mind you, I had this feeling for the first 3.5 years of the PLL as well. Deej is just getting his licks in.
The facts, right? So I didn't make it, as you all know. This coach walks up to our table there.
First person for the Whipsnakes to come on for media day too.
Yep, he comes up, sees our whole setup and everything, sees KB. I'm pretty sure he shook his hand or whatever. And
oh yeah, shook my hand, shook my mom's hand. Like he's like, I know Kyle.
Yeah,
use my government name. I was like, okay.
Very next words out of his mouth.
He's getting ready to sit down. He's putting the headset on his head.
Where's your partner?
Jim's tag needed, everybody. Well, I'll give you the delivery. He goes, "Where's your partner?" I let him know, and he goes, "That's a shame."
It is a shame. It's a shame, Jim. I should have been there. I'm sorry. I did everything I could, but it's just stuff funny. Like that where like, because like I think I remember vividly telling KB 3 or 4 days before that like I feel like I just fly under the radar and like everybody knows you because of the business handlings and like they're always interacting with you, but then like I'm just here like people know me because I'm on the pod and they know us but like
I'm in all the press conferences on Zoom and everything.
Yeah, like you don't miss, so they know exactly who you are. And I'm like, yeah, like people know me, but then like stuff like that happens, and I'm like, oh, they be coming here for me for real. Like I'm not Otis. It's not ain't nobody come here for you, Otis. They came here for DJ. And I'm loving that. And this was one of those weekends where like when we walked up to somebody from the PLL, a handful of fans, players, they knew exactly who we were. They were like, "What's up?" Quick to dap us up, asked us about the pod and just, the season overall. Weekends like this where we get, the compliments from the front office, from the players, the coaches, it just reminds us that we are absolutely doing the right thing.
Dog, I got a picture with Mike and Paul at the end of year awards because Mike was like, "You're taking a picture with us." That was like one of the most surreal moments of my life. And I get it. Like Mike, you and I have formed an invaluable friendship over the past 4 years now since Mike has come on the pod in 2021. And like he knew who we were before, but like 2021 is really when our relationship like skyrocketed. And like to see Paul come up to me and everything and like knowing who Paul Rabel was well before I got into this lacrosse game and like covering everything. And like just the respect that both of those guys have, not only for us, but the media in general, is what makes the PLL such a fun and welcoming and just awesome league to cover. And the fact that Mike was like, yeah, you're getting in this picture. I was like, say less.
Say less.
It was like that photo when Mike sent it to me was like the encapsulation of this season. It was like, holy shit, like we're getting recognized across the board. People are paying attention. And when I walked into that media day room and when we walked into Street Lacrosse, it was like, we're part of the big dogs in the national media covering this league and covering this sport. It was Lacrosse Network, who obviously the PLL owns. It was Inside Lacrosse, who have been the OGs doing it for the longest time. It was Dan Arestia, who's been doing this for a long ass time. And then us. That was the 4 tables, the 4 booths set up at Media Day. And then when you get the invite to the end of year awards as an end of year awards voter, and you're sitting at a table and it's me, Pulski, Boylard, Kevin Brown, Rosie, Dan, and Terry. And then me, I'm like, excuse me? Huh?
One of these things is not like the other.
I was like, oh. It was like one of those moments where like, holy shit, like we thought we made it before, but here we are now. And like I'm at a fucking banquet with the best players on the planet, the best of the best, with the best of the best coaches, with people from Sports Business Journal, from Cash App, from all these big name corporate sponsors and everything. I'm just like, I'm looking and I'm in my backyard. I'm at the National Constitution Center. And I'm just like, this is surreal. It was an unreal moment. Got to catch up with the boy Matt DeLuca. I met his fiance. He was there at the end of year awards, and it was just so sick to just be a part of it. And yeah, I guess we can say it. DJ and I are end of year award voters, and we have been for. You've been what, for 3 years, and I have been for 4.
Yeah. Yep.
So since 2021, I've been an end of year award voter. DJ, you got the invite to be a voter in 22.
Yep.
And it's sick. It's like one of those things that, like, growing up, you see like all these end of year award voters have it in their Twitter bios and shit. And it's like, yeah, I have that stature next to my name for a sports league.
I ain't putting it in my Twitter bio though.
Nah,
but
they don't gotta know all that.
Just know I got it.
Yeah.
Just know I got it. And I'm responsible. But I do want to say, shout out to Dan for beating everybody to the game. Putting out an article about why you voted the way you did. I gotta give you props, bro.
He was quick with it all weekend, bro.
Cap of the hat, bro. Like I can't even tip of the cap, bro. Like I can't mess with that. You beat us all to it, and it was immaculate. That is the way you do it. You give people the inside. Fans don't get to vote on that. I'm sure they would love to, but since they don't, they want to hear why the people who voted chose the way they did. And Dan hopped on the train far before the rest of us, and it was a hit.
And I mean, there's some guys that I voted for that you didn't vote for, and it's not to slight those guys. It's just the way that we perceive the game. And I think that's how end of year award voting in every sport should be viewed. And I think the guys who won the awards this year were incredibly deserving. I think some of the guys that didn't end up winning awards were incredibly deserving and got votes. And at the end of the day, like, we're not the only ones voting. There's a multitude of steps for voting processes and everything. We're just a small piece of the puzzle. And I saw everyone like freaking out online like they always do about guys winning awards, guys not winning awards. And at the end of the day, some of them got their just desserts and they won the PLL championship. And I mean, you know, I know there's players DJ voted for that it wouldn't have shocked me if those guys won. And there's guys that I voted for that DJ is not shocked that they ended up winning, and vice versa across the board. It's just cool to see guys get recognition. And when you sit back and you look at some of the guys that did win, their seasons were fucking unbelievable. And it just shows you what the bar is and what you have to do as a player to beat those guys out. Michael Earhart won an award for 5 years of the PLL's existence. And the only reason Tyler Carpenter is this year's Long Stick Midfielder of the Year award winner is because Michael Earhart retired. Michael Earhart, year in and year out, dominated the position. Last year, there was questions whether or not he should have won. But when you sit back and look at the season Michael Earhart had when he was on the field, he was dominating. And that's how you kind of have to look at it, is these guys that are winning year over year, it's not a popularity contest. It may come off that way to the common fan, but you look at the work that these guys are putting in and the way that they dominate the game. They're setting the bar for where, hey, if you want to be called the best of the best, you got to meet me up here. As DJ likes to say, ball up top. You got to ball up top.
Hey, bro, ball up top. I swear. It is a ball up top kind of year, bro. And that's how I feel about a lot of these awards. Not gonna cap. I saw them come out and I was like, ball up top. I'm Depoy. I'm gonna let y'all know right now. Me and Brian saying the same thing, ball up top. And that's the same thing JT Giles Harris is saying too. Y'all better keep the ball up top. Because if it come down here, it's gonna get scary.
And guess what? We talked about it too. We both voted for JT.
Yep.
But there was a moment when I'm going through, I'm like, damn, Matt Dunn's having a really fucking awesome year this year. And we talked about it too. The guys that were nominated deserve to be nominated. But there were 2 guys that were an echelon above the nominees at the end of the day. Did it surprise me that Matt Dunn ended up winning because of how well he played this year? No.
Yes.
It surprised you for sure. But then we were talking about it too, and it's like JT Giles Harris is almost like an elite offensive lineman where you don't hear his name get called, but he's doing his job. And at the end of the day, that's what you want.
And I think being a coach has completely changed my mind. I think back in 21, we have this conversation and I get the vote and it's this exact same conversation. I'm probably taking Matt Dunn because my mind was completely different on the sport and the way that you showcased how good you really were. At the time, because I was still very young in the sport and how it worked, I felt like if you were an impact player, it showed on the stat sheet. That's not the case anymore defensively. Now that I'm really into the game, the X's and O's, and I'm coaching, your best defender, and almost every single coach will tell you this. Almost every single coach will tell you this. Your best defender doesn't show up on the stat sheet. They're going to have some GBs. They're going to have some caused turnovers. They're going to clear the ball well. They might have an assist or a goal or two. Maybe. But they're not showing up on the stat sheet. But you ask every single one of those coaches who their best player is, who their best defensive player is, they're going to tell you that guy. And then when you say, oh, what about their stat? He's going to say stats don't mean nothing. That kid don't get beat. That kid's always in the right spot. That kid can stop a fast break by himself. JT Giles Harris stopped a fast break in the PLL by himself against the Atlas. He went out there and he used a lift check to stop a fast break. No body, didn't throw some crazy slap check. Ball wasn't even on the ground. The ball didn't touch the ground, and he stopped the fast break by a simple lift check. But he ain't the best defender in the league? Stop it. But I get it at the same time because people want to see a defender that's going to go and have 15 caused turnovers with 10 ground balls and 2 goals and an assist on the year, on top of playing really good shutdown defense. I can't argue with that. I get it. But at the same time, I understand what it takes to truly be the defensive player of the year and what that might look like. JT Giles-Harris was robbed of that this year because he truly was the defensive player of the year to my standards, in my opinion. Anybody who voted for Matt Dunn was not wrong because that's their standards and their opinion. And Matt Dunn did have a great season. But and what I believe to show the defensive player of the year, it was JT Giles-Harris. What I think a lot of people vote for in defensive player of the year is what they look for in an LSM. I'm sorry. I don't necessarily want my defenseman going back and forth all game trying to get assists and goals. I want him 100% to play defense because you're guarding one of the best, 8 teams, one of the best 24 attackmen in the country, in the world. You're guarding one of the best 24 attackmen in the world. I don't want you down there playing offense. I would love to know
like how everyone else who did get a vote or was part of how they kind of viewed it, because I'm looking at their stats too, like from a statistical basis. The game where you put one, counter on one side of the scale, one on the other for each player. They both played in all 10 games, even. JT had 9 caused turnovers. Matt Dunn had 11. Okay. Matt Dunn had more than that stat. 13 ground balls for Matt Dunn, 15 for JT. They're even again in my book. It's like, okay, one had more here, one more had there. I don't know if this is the case or not. I sure hope it wouldn't be. Like you said, Matt Dunn scored this year, and everyone was stunned that he scored when he did because it was like, holy shit, you're letting up goals to Matt Dunn. Like, Matt Dunn doesn't do this. And the stats showed that. He hadn't scored since, 2016 or something? It was crazy. He had 4 points this year. JT had none. And then Matt Dunn had 2 turnovers. JT had 4. And then penalty-wise, JT had 3 penalties. Matt Dunn had 0. I know you and I don't personally account for that in terms of the voting situation, but I do wonder if anybody does, especially with penalties.
I think maybe penalties might come into it and possibly turnovers, but realistically, you're not clearing the ball as much as a pole in this league. A lot of times it's going straight,
especially those two where they are kind of your marksman defenders.
So much of it is really just it's not even that. It's just like at this level, it's pretty much goalie to short stick right away, and then short stick up and out. The only time you're really clearing it as a defenseman is when you pick up a ground ball, and that's not happening too often on the defensive end. So I understand why timeouts might not necessarily, or turnovers might not necessarily be thrown into that. But I could see how penalties could change the way people look at things. My thing is penalties or not, JT was hands down the best defender this year. I think maybe I think the one game we can say he got exposed was week 2 against the Archers. Other than that, he was shut down. And even in that game, he wasn't bad. Just the defense as a whole was bad.
And you could say the same thing about that game against the Atlas. Like, the Outlaws as a team, not even just the demon, the team as a whole was bad.
Yeah, and that's very different than him being bad. And I think that's another thing that gets thrown into voting that I don't necessarily agree with in terms of individual voting is team success. Hear me out. Sometimes team success is good to use. In my opinion, it should be between 2 guys that you don't really know. So for this situation, for example, but you leave the playoffs out of it because playoffs really don't have anything to do with voting.
Which we can say it doesn't.
Right. You can use team success to be that last tiebreaker. We were just talking about, we're going down things. It's pretty much even down the board. Okay, whose team was better? Because you obviously contributed to that team success by being as good as you were. But to kind of lead with that, or that to be in your top 5, I think it's crazy, including MVP voting. Because arguably the actual MVPs of the league are the ones where that team would be dog water without him. Dog water. That's the MVP, right? We look at some of the years that LeBron didn't win MVP in the NBA. He 1,000% was the MVP because you take him off that team, they're horrible. Look at every team LeBron's ever left. The next 2 to 3 years are the worst years that franchise has ever seen. You can't tell me he isn't the MVP of the league every year. But people base things off of different things when they're voting. I wouldn't be surprised to see team success be factored into it, although I don't agree with that.
Which, I mean, in this case, for this argument, the Whipsnakes had one more win. And I guess the only thing that you can take into account for it, and it's not necessarily, I mean, maybe you can kind of justify it. I'd like to hear an argument about it. I don't know if I necessarily would, is the score differentials. But also your offense plays a part in that as well.
Yep.
The Whipsnakes had a positive score differential. The Outlaws had a negative. But again, that's more a team aspect thing. So maybe that's something that people took into account. Not either of us, but.
And not being a cop-out here, but it's also like you can play as best defense as you want, but the goalie can also still just miss the save.
Right.
Like that's not 100% on you. And like as a coach who runs a zone defense, because I have goalies who have never played before freshman year of high school, there's times where we force a shot from 18, 20 out and it still goes in because that kid's just not as good of a goalie yet. That doesn't mean my defense didn't do their job.
Right.
It just means that our goalie didn't make a save. So there's a lot that goes into being a defenseman and winning those awards. Whereas like offense, it's cut and dry for the most part. How good were you? How many points did you have? How many goals? How many assists? How many turnovers? Okay. How good was your team? Like team comes last and like, boom, done. Like it's clear cut and dry. It's these other positions you get into that have all the nuances.
So to recap the winners of the awards, Romar Dennis wins the humanitarian award. And I think the only, and this is no slight to anybody, and I thought Romar's speech was awesome too. If you missed that, definitely go check that out. The only thing I think we would love to see is just like what these guys are doing to be nominated and seeing who they're working with or what they're doing in their communities to be nominated. That's the only additional thing I'd like to see from the league. And I think fans would like to see that too, just to see like, oh, this is who my favorite player who's nominated for this award is helping out. We talked about this when the finalists came out too. So check that out when you can. JT Giles Harris wins the Sportsmanship Award. Tom Schreiber wins the Leadership Award. Our guy Ryan Ambler wins the Teammate of the Year Award. Mike Pressler is your Coach of the Year. TJ Malone, your Rookie of the Year, who gave an awesome speech as well. Danny Logan wins the Hard Hat Award for Short Stick D-Midi of the Year. Did you vote for Danny Logan or did you vote for Terry?
I voted for Terry.
So did I. Tyler Carpenter wins LSM of the Year, first non-Michael Earhart winner of the award. Trevor Baptiste wins Face-Off Player of the Year. Blaze Reardon wins Goalie of the Year. Like we mentioned, Matt Dunn wins Defensive Player of the Year. Tom Schreiber wins the Midfielder of the Year award and said that, you know, the first person he thought of with this was Grant Ament, which was really cool. Attackman of the Year is Jeff Teat, and your MVP is Jeff Teat.
I do want to say that the all pro lists were done correctly, in my opinion. Everybody from what I can tell is the winners got the most votes, but like you could see the conversations that were had amongst people with the first team and second team all pro. And like, I feel like voting was done right for the most part. There was, like face-off athlete, I voted for Joe. I feel like he should have won over TD or over Trevor.
And that's no slight to Trevor either. That's just like Joe Nardello was phenomenal this year as well.
Yeah. And I had no problem with Trevor winning, just not who I thought had the best season. Same thing with LSM. I thought Tyler Carpenter was good, but I thought he was very good in the beginning of the season. I think he really tapered off after about week 2 or 3. And then he was kind of just another LSM within the pool group. I gave my edge to Jared Connors because he was one of 3 bright spots on the Redwoods this year, right? It was him, Trevor, and Jack. Those are the
You mean TD?
Yes, sorry, TD and Jack. Those were the three guys that I found to be the bright spots of this team. Jared Connors went out there and excelled week after week. And there was a reason he was nominated for this award. There's a reason why he was an all-star this year. Because he was easily one of the most important parts of this team. I gave him the nod for that because to go out and be that impressive on a team that ain't really helping you, it speaks volumes. But I'm not opposed to any of those LSMs winning based off the season they had this year. And then midfielder of the year was another one for me.
I voted for Grant there. I do want to say real quick.
I think I voted Tom, but wouldn't have been surprised if Grant had won. On
Tyler Carpenter, I do want to just say I think he only really slowed down the last 3 weeks of the season. Just in terms of just like different categories and everything. His biggest game did come in week 3, like you mentioned, against the Chaos. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was week 3. No, that was week 2. I'm sorry, because they had their opener week 1 was the double. His biggest game was against the Chaos in week 2, but I'd say his last 3 games of the season where he only had 1 caused turnover and he had a total of 7 ground balls, there were definitely better games from June to July than the end of July into August. I voted for Ethan Rawl for LSM of the year because I looked at everything, and as the season went on, to me, Ethan got better as a player, and you could not only see it on the stat sheet, but you could see it in his play with the Cannons, and that's why I gave my vote to Ethan. Again, I'm not surprised that Tyler Carpenter won because I was going back and forth between Ethan, Tyler, and Jared Connors. I think it was the most competitive finalist list out there. All 3 guys were extremely deserving, and shout out to Tyler Carpenter doing it as a rookie to win the award there. I did vote for Grant Ament for midfielder of the year. I thought he was sensational this year at a new position, and I'm not surprised Tom won because Tom was also fantastic. But again, I think everyone that ended up winning, there's an argument to be had for why they won. It's not that they weren't deserving. So-and-so got snubbed. So-and-so got robbed. There's an argument for each and every award winner to have won these awards. And there's an argument for some of the guys that didn't end up winning to also get those awards. And guess what? Most of those guys ended up being either first or second team All-Pro.
I think the only snub I truly have is Defensive Player of the Year. And like I said, it's not a slight at Matt Dunn, but I just think JT was clearly the best defensive player this year. But besides that, there were no subs. It was simply just conversation to be had.
And again, JT ends up being first team All-Pro defensive player, along with Matt Dunn, Gavin Adler. I did find it really cool, because I think there's also 4 bright spots on this Redwoods team that you forgot. There's a second team All-Pro in Brian Tevlin. I did find it really cool that like most of the guys who were nominated for the awards typically end up getting first or second team All-Pro, depending on their position and where it fills out. Brian Tevlin was not nominated for short stick D-Midi of the year, but ends up getting second team All-Pro, and I think that's a credit to just his play and being recognized by the league, and fully deserved to be on one of these All-Pro teams.
Yeah, he was a new coin term from our boy AT, a Swift Army Machete.
He had a coming out year this year.
I mean, I thought he was very good last year.
I agree. But I think in a year where like the team was down, he was one of those guys, like you mentioned, with the Jack Kellys and TD and Jared Connor, like he shined even brighter because of the situation.
Yeah, I just wouldn't call it a coming out year because like I don't think this is any different than what he did last year. Like I think you look at his 2 seasons from last year and this year, they're very similar. It's just the Redwoods sucked this year. And yeah, I flat out said that. The Redwoods were awful this summer. And I pray something is done about it before June, 1st, I think it is next year. Hold on. I'm pulling up the calendar for this one. By the time I pull up to Tom and Mary Casey Stadium on June 7th, 2025 in Albany, New York. There better be some changes.
I do want to say Brian Tevlin did have a much better on paper statistical year.
Here we go.
Production one.
Are we going back into that conversation again?
I'm saying the production standpoint compared to his rookie season, he improved.
My question is, did he improve or did the rest of his team suck?
Both can be true. Both could be true.
I mean, yes, but I don't think this is that case. I think this is a case where he played the same as he did last year, but it looks even better because the rest of his team crumbled around him. So they were asking him to do more. He actually had to take offensive reps this year. They didn't ask him to take a single offensive rep last year. They didn't ask him to pick up a pole last year unless somebody got hurt. These are things they asked him to do consistently. They didn't ask him to take face-offs last year.
He did score more goals last year than he did this year.
But that was all just off of, play.
One.
Like, yeah, they were asking him to do things this year that they weren't asking him to do in the past. So the statistical thing, I get the bump in statistics, but when you just look at his play and not quite production, but just outcome of him being on the field, it's pretty similar to what they got from him last season.
29 ground balls versus 11 last year, and 11 caused turnovers versus 7 his rookie season.
Tracks.
Like I said, both can be true. And I think he's only going to get better as he continues to play, and he's going to be up for the Hard Hat Award and be on all-pro teams year in and year out. But your all-pro teams, first team all-pro, Jeff T, Asher Nolting, Michael Sowers, Trevor Baptiste, Tom Schreiber, Grant Ament. Grant becomes just the second player ever to be all-pro at attack and all-pro at midfield, joining a pretty familiar name there, Deech. It's good company to be in with Gary Gate. And Matt Campbell also in that midfield first-team all-pro team. Matt Dunn, Gavin Adler, JT Giles Harris, Tyler Carpenter, Danny Logan, Ryan Terafenko, and Blaze Reardon. Your first team All-Pros, your second team All-Pros, TJ Malone as a rookie, Marcus Holman, Zed Williams, Joe Nardella, Trey LeClaire, very deserving, Dox Aikens, Zach Courier, and then your defense is Garrett Epple, Ben Randall, very deserving, and shout out to Ben Randall, and Rylan Reese got extended through 2027 this week, and Jack Rowlett, Ethan Rawl, your second team All-Pro LSM. And then Zach Geddes, Brian Tevlin, Brett Dobson, your second team for short stick D middies and goalie.
Exactly how I expected it to shake out.
Squads.
Not at all. Not at all how I expected this to shake out. But I do, like you said earlier, I do think everyone who ended up on this list 1,000% deserved it. You can look back at all their seasons, and they all had very, very good seasons. I don't envy who has to put together these lists.
Bunch of squads. We are going to break the fourth wall here and take a quick break because DJ has to get ready for Friday Night Lights with football. I have a soccer game to call in about 6 minutes down the road from my house. When we come back from our quick commercial break, we will be breaking down the rest of the PLL season if there's anything else we want to touch on there. And then we will also recap the NLL Draft as Brennan O'Neill gets drafted #1 overall and joins some illustrious company as he heads to Philadelphia. And we'll break down the draft as well. So we'll see you on the other side. And we're back. Breaking the fourth wall. We're back from our broadcast jobs. Put a bow on the PLL discussion before we put a bow on the PLL season towards the end of the show. But, the end of year awards and media day were unbelievable. Sunday morning, we put out our interviews as well as just one giant podcast episode. So definitely check that out if you want to hear the conversations we had with Bo Pedersen, with Ryan Ambler, Chris Bates, Connor Fields, and Mac O'Keefe from the now champion Utah Archers, as well as Jim Stagnita, Matt Rambo, and Drew Snyder from the Maryland Whipsnakes. And I got to say, this year, like, kudos to Tom Brady, not the former quarterback, but Tom Brady that works at the PLL, and Grace Hamilton, and our guy Nick as well. Grace is our GOAT. She is our queen. Those three, it was Tom Brady's kind of idea. I was talking to Mike at the end of year awards. It was his concept and idea to make Media Day more like Super Bowl Media Day and Radio Row style. And then Grace and Nick and the whole PLL staff made it extremely possible. It was an unbelievable experience. And it was genuinely like, here's the full team. They're going to be in here. You come up and grab who you want. Like, it was unprecedented access. And to get guys who we know extremely well, like a Ryan Ambler, like a Matt Rambo, like both Coach Stagnita and Coach Bates, and then get guys who we know but haven't had a chance to sit down with, like Rambo and Connor Fields, but they have been day one supporters of ours. And then to get guys that we've never really established a connection with, like Bo, like Mac O'Keefe, like Drew Snyder. It was super cool. And I think the way that everyone was there, the way we approached it, where we didn't really have too much double up on who we sat down with, which I think is awesome, that TLN got different interviews and content. Inside Lacrosse got different interviews and content. We got different interviews and content. And Dan got different interviews and content to give every single person at home a different look behind the curtain at Media Day. So kudos to all of us, too. Pats on the back for all of us for kind of approaching it that way. I think the only double ups that happened were us and Inside Lacrosse got Ryan Ambler. Obviously, we all got the coaches, but that's kind of normal. And I think Dan and I both got Mac O'Keefe. But I think that was the only double up. But everyone was getting different interviews. It was super cool. And big thank you to the PLL for having us out as part of this new era of Media Day. Street Lacrosse was incredible. The championship game was awesome. And being able to celebrate afterwards was a treat and a half in and of itself. But Deej, the NLL got its kickoff to the season, and it is brought to you by our awesome pals over at Tomahawk Shades, the best small badge eyewear in the game. From sunglasses to blue light glasses to prescription lenses, Tomahawk Shades has you covered to make sure your eyes are protected from the sun and from blue light, to make sure your eyes are functioning at peak condition. Deej and I are always wearing our sunglasses when we're out on the road, coaching, calling games that are outside when the sun is out. I'm always wearing my blue light glasses when I'm editing, when I'm watching lacrosse on TV. It genuinely helps your eyes feel better. They don't feel as strained, and you get better sleep because of it. So go to tomahawkshades.com or download the Tomahawk Shades app in the App Store or Google Play Store. And when you fill up your cart, get everything you need to make sure your eyes are protected with a quality product at an affordable price, and the cheapest price out there in terms of getting that quality eyewear versus the competitors. Use code USP to get an additional 25% off your next order at tomahawkshades.com or in the Tomahawk Shades app. That's code USP for 25% off your next order from our good pals over at Tomahawk Shades. DJ happened. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Brennan O'Neill, drafted number 1 overall in the 2024 NLL Draft. He is a Philadelphia wing, and I am genuinely ecstatic, not only just for personal reasons, but for the pod to have insane access to such a talent week in and week out throughout this NLL season and beyond. I'm very excited that Brennan is going to be playing, because that was obviously the biggest question, whether or not he was going to commit to playing in the NLL. But best believe the relationship I have garnered with Paul Day over the last 6-7 years now, you don't use the number 1 overall pick on a player that you're not certain is going to suit up for your team. Brennan O'Neill is going to be a Philadelphia wing. He's going to wear number 34. And I'm just so excited that Brennan is kind of like the cherry on top to what has been an immaculate offseason for the Wings, from the dispersal draft approach to still having unbelievable talent on this team from last season and previous seasons, whether it be Blaze Reardon, Joe Resiteritz, Holden Catoni, Mitch Jones. And now you add Brennan O'Neill to that mix, along with the guys you got in the dispersal draft, along with Ian Rubel taking over as head coach, Paul Day not having double stress on his plate. And while we were away, TK is back as associate head coach for the Philadelphia Wings. It's just an exciting feeling, and to see positivity from Wings fans in the comment sections on social media for once is a nice feeling. And that's how you should be going into this season. If you are a Philadelphia Wings fan, or you're just a fan of the NLL in general, you should be ecstatic whenever the Philadelphia Wings are playing lacrosse. Because on paper, this team is going to, one, be extremely fun to watch on the offensive side of things. Number two, should certainly have more than 6 wins than they did last year. And three, I'm going to go out there and say this, Deej, and I feel like you probably agree with me just on paper. This could potentially be the best iteration of this era of Philadelphia Wings lacrosse we see since they came back in 2018. They've only made the playoffs once. They were a wild card. This is a team that has the ability to be up in that upper tier if they perform to their abilities.
I mean, we've talked about it the last couple of years. Their offense has a lot of good names, a lot of star names, a lot of names you'd look for in the NLL, but they haven't quite produced in that same standpoint. So this might be the year, maybe, next year, next couple of years, but they've kind of put together a team that is relatively young, or at least kind of prime years, that is able to compete for a few years. And I think they're going to be able to make some shake, but the bigger part is, will the defense be able to hold up? And will they kind of be able to catch this offense up to where that defense has been and not really have any drop off, and continue to add helpful pieces that are both good in the locker room and out on the floor, which is the hard part of being a GM and a coach, is making sure all the personalities and such mesh and have like-mindedness.
And the way I'm viewing this season in particular, because it is so unique with the dispersal draft and the amount of Panther City Lacrosse Club players that are coming into this Wings locker room to start this season, I think there's 6 or 7 guys right now on the roster that were with Panther City last year. The fact that you got Tracy Koluski to come back can't be overstated on how important that is for that meshing of personalities in the locker room. You're bringing in 6 to 7 guys that are new to this team, their former head coach that they played for 3 years under. You're also bringing in a guy who is kind of the bridge to the guys who have been here and have played with under TK when he was here before he went to Panther City. I'm viewing this kind of like, for everybody at home, and Colin Squires is going to love this when he hears this, this feels like merge day on Survivor. When all the tribes are down to a certain number of players on Survivor, Jeff Probst says, hey, drop your buffs. We're merging. That's what this feels like. It feels like the Philadelphia Wings and a chunk of Panther City Lacrosse Club are now merged into one under the Philadelphia Wings banner. And you have the key to this merge in TK to help blend those personalities together. I think it also helps that Liam Patton played for both teams. But it's going to make that camaraderie factor a lot more seamless now that you have a guy who knows the way that the Wings organization works, has coached under Paul Day on his staff, has coached alongside Ian Rubel, and it feels like with the title that TK has as associate head coach, he and Rubel are going to kind of be in lockstep together. And then he knows what these Panther City guys are capable of. That is a huge, huge get to bring TK back. And I can't wait to see him on media day. I can't wait to see him first game of the season and see him back at the Wells Fargo Center. I'm very excited about that. And I think TK, that's when we saw this Wings offense at their best, was when he was here as an assistant coach. As soon as TK left, the offense had moments, but they got stuck in neutral way too often. And when you add a big piece like Brennan O'Neill and just the overall skill sets that he has, and he said in his first interview after the draft with Teddy Jenner and Pat Gregoire that, like, it may not have been, at the professional level or at the amateur level, but he's played some box lacrosse with a guy who's tearing it up right now for Team USA, and that boy is Joey Spallina. Brennan is making sure he gets his feet wet and is picking up. He is a sponge when it comes to knowledge, from what I've gathered about Brennan O'Neill and just like seeing him play in the PLL, watching him last summer, watching him at Duke the past couple of seasons play in the NCAA tournament. Like, he's a sponge of knowledge. And anytime he can learn something from somebody that has more knowledge about something than he does, he's going to gravitate towards you and learn. I'm so excited that he's here. I'm so excited for his teammates that he's going to be able to play alongside. And it's only going to make guys like Mitch Jones, like Blaze Reardon, like Joe Resiteris, like Holden Catoni that much better of players. And I think it's going to be really cool to watch him play alongside guys like a Sam LeClaire and kind of the unsung heroes, because Brennan's going to make sure that those guys, being the big team guy that he is, those guys are also going to be involved. And I think it's just going to be fun to watch Brennan O'Neill take another form of lacrosse by storm. And it gets to be right in our backyard, and we get to cover it week in and week out, up close and personal. Everything's coming up OTB, baby. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped that Brennan is here. And I was talking to people at Street Lacrosse too, and I said, yeah, it feels like Brennan's going number one. And, Jordy said, like, that's going to get a bunch of people in the building simply to watch Brennan O'Neill. And that's exactly what the NLL needs. They need these big name guys going to markets and pumping them up even more, so that way things like Panther City don't happen, where it's like, okay, we can expand. Let's find the proper market. And when it's time for Joey Spallina to come into the NLL, when it's time for, that class of 2027 that's going to be absolutely loaded with talent, maybe we do have a proper expansion team that can prop those guys up. This is so awesome for us. It's awesome for the league. It's awesome for Brennan, and it's awesome for the city of Philadelphia.
You're a little more pumped than I am, as you rightfully should be, as a Philly fan and coverer. So I'll come at this as two different angles. As an OTB, as OTB Deej, this is fucking fantastic. You feel me? Like, hell yeah. We're going to be able to talk to this man all the time, right? You're going to be able to talk to this man all the time. He's going to be out there
by the way, for everybody, I should hit this as well for the people watching on YouTube, Deej. Brennan O'Neill will be coming on this podcast in the next week or two.
FYI. But yeah, we're going to be able to talk to this guy all the time. He's going to be out there tearing it up on the floor here in a community that already loves lacrosse. People do come out to see the Wings. That's been a long time standing thing that people do. So it's going to be exciting to get him in front of a fan base like that. We're going to have access to him. This team is only going to get better because of it. He's only going to get better because of it. Excited to see how he takes this, becomes a better person, the learning opportunities he has in lacrosse, the connections he makes with different people. Like, this is just all around a great experience for Brennan and for everybody involved in the Wings organization. TK coming back is obviously huge, because it just makes the transition seamless for them. You know, like they're just going back to business as usual. This is nothing the Wings haven't already done. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were still doing a lot of the things that he had them doing before they left, simply because not necessarily tradition, but just what's the word I'm looking for here? Almost memory, like muscle memory. Like you kind of just do things because you're used to doing them.
And look how good that Panther City offense was
Routine.
with him as the head coach.
Yeah, exactly. He looked great as a head coach as well. So I'm excited to see kind of what it's going to be like to have TK back in Philly. Yeah, but as a Calgary fan, fuck y'all. What
Whoa.
the fuck?
Hey, I'm stoked about your draft.
I mean, the draft was good. The draft was good.
You got a player that I don't think a lot of people realize was on the board and kind of snuck under the radar there.
Yeah,
And
bro, but you got Brennan O'Neill in your city.
I understand that. But we'll get to who
And
you picked. But let me just say, I think the NLL community is not nearly excited as they should be about the number 5 pick that Calgary made. I think he's going to be a fucking dog in the NLL.
He said he's wanted to play in the NLL for as long as he could remember. So I'm excited to get him in a Calgary jersey. But I mean, we're in a total rebuild right now. So
just like Brennan said, his first NLL game he ever watched was a Wings game.
I'm not even bugging, bro. We vibing. Let's get him in a Calgary jersey. See what happens.
Brennan O'Neill.
We in the rebuild, so it is what it is. But it would have been nice to have Brennan O'Neill in a rebuild. Let me tell you,
he won't gonna be there.
Yeah,
Welcome to Philly, Brennan O'Neill. The rest of the first round looked like this. Sam English goes number 2 to Toronto. The rich get richer because you know who Sam English's pro comp is in the NLL, Deej? Oh, it's his current teammate, Challen Rogers. No big deal. No big deal. The Georgia Swarm had the 3rd pick. This one's going to haunt me forever. And don't get it twisted. I'm thrilled Brennan O'Neill is here. Like, you heard me go on that diatribe just now, everybody. But Michael Grace going to the Georgia Swarm is going to haunt me for years and years and years. And I swear to Christ, if the Georgia Swarm don't follow us on social media after I caped for that man all pre-draft and said, that's my guy, because we didn't know at the time that Brennan was going to play or not. I'm sick that he's going to that team.
All I'm going to say is it would be funny if Georgia beat y'all 12-11 again.
Chill.
I'm just saying, for him to go there of all places is such crazy beef for you, bro.
Such it's double birds to my face. He's a dog. The Georgia Swarm got an elite defenseman that's going to be an anchor for them once he finishes up at Syracuse for his grad year. Jonathan Peshko goes number 4 to Vancouver. And then Deej's Roughnecks. Genuinely love this pick. Braden Maia. Bro, you heard how Jared Newman and AT talked about that man preseason. He is going to be a dog in a Calgary Roughnecks uniform. I'm stoked for him. Like, this is the type of play for him as a player where he's going to play in the NLL. Like you said, he's wanted to play in the NLL forever. It's going to make him a better player for the Carolina Chaos, too. Just like this is going to make Brennan a better player for the Denver Outlaws. And him playing for the Outlaws and Braden playing for the Chaos are going to make them better for Philly and Calgary in the NLL. Like, this is such a power play move and like a blue chip player that you know is built and ready to play. I'm stoked for Braden because he's going to have every opportunity to play. He's going to play alongside Curtis Dixon. He's going to play alongside Jesse King this season. Like, that's a sick-ass draft pick for him, for Calgary. And I know you feel like it's rebuild mode, a lot of players getting traded off and everything. that offense still going to put up numbies between those three. Those three alone are going to put up numbers.
I mean, I'm not saying we like the worst team in the league and down in the dump. I mean, we was close to it for a minute, but we ain't all there yet. But it's not the season we're used to having as Calgary Roughneck fans, and it's going to be a tough one for us. It's an uphill battle this year. That's all I'm saying.
We have an all-name team candidate in this first round as well, going to Vancouver with the number 6 pick, Remo Shinato. That is,
excuse me,
amazing. Remo Shinato. That is all-time right there. Buffalo takes Lucas Nielsen and Luca Anton Giovanni back-to-back because, of course, they do. The rich get richer. Trent DeChico goes number 9 to San Diego. Then your Roughnecks get Jack Follows, all-time nameplate on a jersey right there. We'll keep it a Bean here. The Georgia Swarm take Alex Bean, number 11 overall.
Don't do that again.
Jacob Power goes number 12 to San Diego. Jake Darlison goes number 13 to Toronto. Robbie Turpin goes 14 to San Diego.
Wait. You just said who went to Toronto?
Jake Darlison.
That's a D guy, isn't it?
I will check right now.
Because if that's who I think it is, that's a solid pick. They might have him listed at transition.
So according to eliteprospects.com, shout out, no free shout outs. He's a defenseman.
Yeah, bro. That's kind of wild.
From Canada.
That's kind of wild. That's a very good pick.
I know nothing about him. No offense to Jake, but hey, if you say he's a good pick, I trust your judgment.
You watch a lot less lacrosse than I do, so it's okay.
Robbie Turpin went 14 to the Seals. Like I said, Taylor Dooley goes 15 to the Bandits, and Matt Accione goes 16 with the compensatory pick, final pick there, to Saskatchewan in round 1. Some other notable names that go in this draft that wasn't necessarily the deepest draft NLL-wise. Jackie Overtime wins a championship and then gets drafted in the second round by the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, goes top 20. I know the second round also brought the first 2 goalies off the board, with Nathan Witten going to Colorado and Callum Lever-Pereira going to Georgia. The third round, we had Jake Naso gets drafted by Saskatchewan. Marquez White goes to Buffalo. Just played in a championship. Gets drafted 38th overall to Halifax. I love this fit for him. Ajax Zapatello gets drafted. I hope he plays because I think it would only improve his game that much more. We have a Cam Accione goes in the third round, so brothers get drafted. Another all-name team, Ethan Malott, that's spelled M''Lot, gets drafted 40th overall by the Seals. In round 4, Sam Alexo goes to Albany.
Sam.
Tickle in the throat. It's late. It's early even.
I'm just helping you out so that you can say it right in the future.
Just didn't want to die on pod. South Jersey legend Shane Knobloch gets drafted by the Wings in
Sam Alexo, by the way.
They heard you.
Okay.
Shane Knobloch goes to the Wings. Pumped.
That was for you, Brian.
trying to see anybody else in this round.
Knobloch went where though?
Philly.
Oh, that's solid.
So right in market. Wings also get an all-name team, but he has 2 first names. Zayden Blake. Boy got 2 first names. Also, the Calgary Roughnecks have an obsession with guys with the last name Cook. Because with pick 54, the Roughnecks took Carter Cook.
They do got a problem with that. Because now what they finna call him? Cooker? They got Cookie.
They got to call him Monster.
Yeah.
In round 5, the Toronto Rock with the 63rd pick take Connor Schellenberger. Does Shelley play?
You asking me?
Yes.
Maybe.
I'd like to see it.
There's a possibility.
It's just a
Like a
tough
strong-
roster to.
I think it's a pretty strong possibility, low key. Yeah, like you said, I just don't know if he cracked the roster.
It's a tough roster to crack. But hey, that'd be sick. Shelley playing with Tom Schreiber, Challen Rogers. Also, great lacrosse name going to Saskatchewan. Caleb Creaser.
Like Creaser?
Like Creasor.
Huh.
Great name. Dylan Hess gets selected in the 6th round by the Colorado Mammoth.
I saw that. Hey, you see he finna play MCLA? Wild.
Which
How you
I
a
don't know.
D1 All-American? Like he finna just go down there and just.
Which I don't know. Does that negate his rights being held by the Chaos?
I don't think so, because they're not
Sanctioned,
yeah, they're not sanctioned at all. I don't believe.
We'll have to find that out. Because I know, like, obviously, the other guys have. It's been like if they play lacrosse, like they lose the rights. But if you play another sport, you don't. And then he went and played football. But he gets picked 73rd.
And I mean, what? Somebody else finna draft him?
Who knows?
I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't bank on it. Is all I'm saying. I would say that Chaos doesn't waste a draft pick on him and just signs him.
Yeah,
in free agency.
The Philadelphia Wings get a fantastic name that I can't wait for all the South Philly dads to try to pronounce. He also played in the Greater Philadelphia Collegiate Box Lacrosse League this summer. Steve Delamanche. You gotta put the hand out when you pronounce that bad boy.
Delamanche.
Cole Kastner gets drafted by the Vancouver Warriors. That'll be fascinating if he ends up playing after he's done at Stanford. The Rochester Nighthawks drafted the most on-the-nose last name player to fit their aesthetic ever. If they don't sell thousands upon thousands of this jersey, I'll be disappointed. Caleb Commandant going to the Rochester Nighthawks.
Commandant?
Yes.
Wow.
Love that name.
It's a very impressive name.
Also, if the Georgia Swarm don't sell thousands upon thousands of these jerseys, I'll be disappointed. Connor Boss.
Oh, big boss. Hey, keep him away from Rick Ross. He gonna have him eating Wingstop every day. That boy gonna be big. Hey y'all, the boss here get free wings.
They need Rick Ross to come do like a halftime performance wearing that jersey.
Bro, but then he gonna be trying to give him free wings all the time.
Hey, that's free.
His last name Boss. Boss gets free wings, bro.
Boss.
Boss gets free wings, bro. Like, oh my Jesus, bro. He gonna be, hey, keep him away from Rick Ross. I ain't got no beef with you though, Rick. You my guy. Other than that line, and you don't even know it.
You're right. I don't even know it.
Oh, you don't know that line? That's the Champagne line.
It's been ever since I listened to that song, bro.
I'll tell you when we not recording because I ain't gonna do us like
He
that.
Mr. Irrelevant, number 86 overall to the Buffalo Bandits, Vance Adams is the final pick in the draft. This quote from Teddy Jenner is awesome about Brennan O'Neill. Said, add his desire to play in the NLL and his already impressive size, you have the makings for the best American prospect to enter the NLL in years.
Ooh, in years. That's a bold statement.
So Brennan O'Neill becomes the first American to go number 1 overall in the NLL draft since 1998, when it was a fellow known as Casey Powell. And then Brennan also joins illustrious company as being the 4th player ever to be drafted number 1 overall in the NLL draft and number 1 overall in the MLL/PLL draft, joining our guy Kevin Crowley, Lyle Thompson, and Jeff Teague.
That's some elite company, bro.
Tell me about it.
That is some elite company. You said LT4, JT7, KC21.
Big cat, bro.
Wild.
Like, you want to talk about 4 guys who, in the history of lacrosse at this level, you want to talk about 4 guys who had all the hype around them, had the big game player moniker attached to them, and just the expectation level through the roof compared to their peers. Like, those 4 guys are talked about as some of the best to ever do it. And I think it's super cool that Brennan has his name etched next to those 3. And I was bringing this up to Rosie and somebody else. I forget who. But I said Brennan, he reminds me a lot, and for everybody at home who doesn't know, I'm a massive baseball fan, and I've been like that's my number 1, and I know that typically doesn't cross over to the lacrosse world, but guess what? With me, it does. Brennan reminds me a lot of Bryce Harper, and I'm not just saying that because he's coming to Philly. I'm saying that because Brennan O'Neill has been talked about since he was a teenager, with the weight of the world expectation on his shoulders. Young American player, was doing things that typically college players are not doing, and gets drafted number 1 overall, and kind of has he does have that franchise altering energy about him. And it reminds me a lot of Bryce Harper when, Bryce Harper's on the front cover of Sports Illustrated when he's 16 years old. Brennan's on the front cover of USA Lacrosse magazine when he's a teenager. Like, there's a lot of comparisons, and I think it's cool to think about those where you compare lacrosse players to the major 4 sports. I don't know if there's a basketball comparison for Brennan necessarily.
Who was on the front of Slam magazine as a freshman in high school?
Hey, I'm just saying, I didn't know if you wanted to put those expectations on him.
I'm not putting no expectations on him, but that's clear cut. Only one man did that. They had LeBron plastered everywhere before that man even grew hair on his chin. He had no armpit hair before they started taking pictures of my man and putting them on magazines.
Hey, at least Brennan grew a mustache by then.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, they ain't even let Bron get no pimples on his face first before they start taking pictures. He was basically fresh out the womb. His mom was still slapping baby oil on his face before he went to work or school in the morning.
We gotta be careful throwing that around.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about the recent happenings. My bad.
But Brennan reminds me. He reminds me a lot of Bryce Harper in a lot of ways, and it's super cool to watch him get the recognition that he deserves, because I think he's a wildly talented player. It's super exciting that he's going to play in the NLL, and now he has the chance to bring that franchise altering energy and play to 2 different markets in a calendar year. Like, you obviously saw the impact he had with the Denver Outlaws this year and got the excitement around that franchise again, alongside a multitude of young, talented players that were drafted by the Outlaws. And now he gets to do that with the Wings with some of the most talented players on the planet. It's going to be super awesome to watch. I'm super excited for him to be coming to this organization. And you want to talk about big stage, bro. The Wings start their season December 1st, 5 p.m. Eastern time out in San Diego. You want to talk about a heavyweight matchup? You got the Stars shining to start the season on opening face-off weekend out in San Diego. Granted, there's 4 other games that happen that weekend, but my goodness, is that game going to be star-studded on both sides.
Conspiracy theorist, because I can be, the league made y'all draft Brennan O'Neill, so they
Chill.
can have this game.
Chill. It was going to be star-studded even if Brennan wasn't in this draft.
You know I got to talk a little bit, bro. I got to talk a little bit. But I'm excited for things to pop off this year. The NLL is going to be great.
We do have our face-off weekend slate. It's 5 games. Everything starting in November this year, which is also extremely exciting. And I want to see if that is when. Yes. So, Deej, we have Black Friday lacrosse this season. And I have talked about this time and time again. This is how the NLL should be. Their season should start Thanksgiving weekend. Having your opening weekend games, Black Friday weekend, is how you start a season. Just like how every other sport, it's like, oh, like this is your marquee, like type of thing. Get your season started Black Friday and go into that weekend. Everybody's at home. Who in their right mind is going out Black Friday shopping now? Everyone waits for Monday. Started on Black Friday every year. This is a smart marketing tactic. Face-off weekend gets going. First game of the season, Deej. It is the star-studded Toronto Rock taking on the Ottawa Black Bears in the first game of the year. Then we have a nightcap, and it is the Vancouver Warriors and the Colorado Mammoth. Then on Saturday, we get the Las Vegas Desert Dogs and the Rochester Nighthawks, along with the Saskatchewan Rush and Albany Firewolves. Now, my only gripe is that both of those games start at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So you're going to have the double screens up or double TV action for that. But Sunday, December 1st, 5 p.m. Eastern time, it's the Philadelphia Wings at the San Diego Seals. And the cool part is, if you're going to that game, it's Trevor Baptiste bobblehead night.
Hey, the man.
What a slate of 5 games to kick off the season.
Oh, I'm going to have the dual screens going. I'm going to be excited for that. Multi-screens going. Obviously, I'm excited to see what the Ottawa Black Bears have going. Too bad I can't really be a fan of them since they want to move into Canada, and they're probably going to end up being rivals with Calgary being so close. So
I think they'll be more rivals with Toronto.
I mean, Toronto's right there, but I mean, they kind of got the makings to be rivalry.
And there's going to be carryover from them being New York's team. So that rivalry will be there with Philly. It'll be there with Albany. It'll be there with Buffalo. But yeah, what a slate to kick off the season. And before you know it, we'll be doing our season previews, breaking everything down. This year it'll be pretty much just East and West Coast, like we kind of did last year. 7 teams each episode, trying to get guests on for that like we did a few years ago. But man, what a time. The NLL is back. Congrats to everybody that got drafted as well. I do want to say, and we do this every year after the PLL championship game, the shit that we get to do all summer long and year in and year out is not possible without you guys listening, following, watching, subscribing, interacting with us. Like this season in particular was one of those like, holy shit, like we're doing this type of years for both of us. Like we were able to bring on board two people who were homies to begin with, and one of them was a fan of the pod. And to grow our team to help us out with coverage, with content, the whole 9 yards was super special this year. To travel to Albany, to do a live show in my backyard in Philly, to go to Baltimore and Deej get his first taste of Homewood Field, to go back to Fairfield, to go to Gillette, to go to Subaru Park. Like, we don't take this shit for granted at all, and we feel super, super lucky to be able to, one, have the access we do, to be able to bring you guys the game and feel like you're watching it in the palm of your hand, and the connections that we get to make week in and week out, and the support we get from the league, from the players, coaches, staff. It's super like weird and like pinch me because you have so many people coming up to us thanking us for what we do, and it's like, no, like thank you for like letting us even be close to doing this. And it all starts with every single person who listens and watches this podcast week in and week out. We don't get the guests on this show if we don't have you guys, our OTB Nation, built up and listening and looking for the content every week. We don't get Sean and Justin Merriman on this show this year without that. We don't get Sammy Adams on this show without that. And, you know, to be able to connect a lot with the lacrosse community this year, like to do a card break with our guy Off Ball Lax this year, to have Michael Harrison on the show, to have the Boston Battery Boys on, like that was super. That was just as cool. Like connecting with so many people who have made the lacrosse community so sick even before Deej and I were like in this shit. Like Michael Harrison's been doing this for over a decade, you know? So like it is really a cool moment, and like that long walk back to the whip on technically Monday morning is always one of the like eye-opening, humbling moments for DJ and I. That like, damn, like we're doing this. And like the TLN boys, Kevin Boylard, Poolski, Diggs, Scotty, you know, to have their support as well. You know, back when we started this pod, like felt like there was a lot of animosity towards us because we were the new kids on the block breaking in, and it's like, yo, we've been doing this forever. Like, what the fuck are you doing in our stomping grounds? So to see like people and the community as a whole kind of embracing anybody who's trying to get their start, and anybody that's been building up, and seeing like the shine we got this year is fucking crazy. And like doing this is genuinely like childhood dream coming true. Not only just like with this podcast, but like it's our whole company that gets built up because of a show like this. So like for this entire summer, thank you to everybody who listens, subscribes, follows, watches, and a huge thank you to Eric Minio and Alexis Brandolini and Shootout For Soldiers, because without them, this summer would have been a whole hell of a lot more difficult getting to places and being boots on the ground for so many weekends. And with the help of Shootout For Soldiers, they made this season so possible. And we're not done doing stuff with them. We got a whole lot more planned too, but like now that the PLL season has a bow on it, like they made this summer so possible. And everything even started back in February at Champ Series with OTB radio every day, Danny Passavoy, Brendan Coleman, the whole PLL team, and number one, our biggest backer, supporter, genuinely one of the greatest humans we know. Grace Hamilton is the GOAT. Because without Grace, none of this shit happens. She is a legend. I'm forever thankful for her. And I know I speak for DJ and Chase and Hoots in this aspect as well. Like, she is a rock star. Whoever found Grace to bring her to the PLL, I want to like kiss you on the cheek, because she makes our lives so simple. It's crazy. The work that she does and the support that she gives every member of the media is amazing. She is a one of one, a true one of one, and I can't thank her enough. From Champ Series through the championship game, I hope Grace Hamilton is in our lives forever, because she is truly the best of the best.
Yeah, I literally don't think it gets better than Grace. Grace, thank you for being literally one of the most awesome human beings I know. And obviously everybody at the PLLs continue to give us a ton of support, but I am not going to dive too deep into this right now, because we're going to do this again in a couple months. So I'm going to gather my thoughts and be a little more lovey-dovey in our yearly thank you episode. I'm normally pretty much just like a yeah, thanks, and kind of just tag along what you guys say. I'm coming notes this year. Coming notes and names and dropping it. So for now, y'all get a ball up top.
But for real, like, this season was like unforgettable in so many aspects when it comes to the PLL, and like there's so many people behind the scenes that made stuff happen, that who knows in years past if it would have. And it all starts at the top too. So big thank you to Mike and Paul for believing in independent media first and foremost, because it's tough to break in the major 4 sports leagues. So to give people a shot, to cover this league and to promote this league and to be, in the trenches as this league continues to grow, it is truly an honor that we get to do this. And I can't wait to see what season 7 of the PLL has in store. That all gets started at Champ Series. Indeed, you're going to be fucking at Champ Series this year. I don't give a shit.
I'm gonna make it happen. You will
be there. OTB radio will make a return, and it's going to be bigger and better than ever, because we're going to have months and months of planning for it. And we got a lot planned in the next couple of weeks, months, that we can't even tell y'all about it yet. But man, oh man, is it fucking sick, because DJ and I have a super top secret project that we're plotting and scheming. I got everything up on my computer desk right now, and just know it's gonna be baller as fuck.
Ball up top.
But yeah, now that we are kind of in this like lull period as well, I know we mentioned Sammy Adams. Sammy Adams will be back on the show. Connor Fields will be coming on the show for the first time outside of Media Day. Michael Sowers will be coming on the show for the first time. Brennan O'Neill will be coming on the show for the first time. Allegedly, Matt Rambo for the first time. Let us know who you want to see on this podcast and hear on this podcast in the next 2.5 months. 2 months, really, because you have the half of September here, all of October, and then 3 weeks of November. So over the next 2 months, drop your guest recommendations in the YouTube comment section, in the Apple Podcast reviews, on Twitter, Instagram, DM us, tag people that you want to see on the show. because we want to get more guests on this show. I know in the past like 2 years it's been pretty guest light outside of special events and everything, but we're working on getting the guest thing back on track because I know you guys love the guests and we want to interact with more people as well. So let us know who you want to have on OTB and join the roster of OTB Nation and be part of our team. But also, like, shout out to our guests this year, like I said, and that goes without saying, our white whale, Matt DeLuca.
We love you, Matt.
Who will certainly be back on this show.
Oh,
sooner rather than
1000%.
later. But again, thank you guys, and be sure to check out Shootout For Soldiers website. And if you're in Colorado, please go to their event in Colorado. It's going to be badass. Super pumped for everybody in Colorado that gets to experience that in the middle of October. It'll be linked in our bio on social media, in our link tree, and it'll be down in the description as well to register October 19th out in Colorado for Shootout For Soldiers. And make sure you guys are following us at OTB Lax Pod across the board. Subscribe to the OTB YouTube channel. It's also at OTB Lax Pod. Follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_next great. Follow Chase at the PLL Pipeline. Follow Hoots at Hoots Sports Media. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Also, the video forms of Media Day interviews will be coming soon. We just have to splice everything together. We tried something, multiple camera angles. Want to see how it all turned out. So that's coming, but it is out in audio form. So check that out as well. Run those numbies up. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. We're at 842 subscribers. Can we get to 1,000 before NLL face-off weekend? Let's make that happen.
Sub.
When we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll also have a massive giveaway across the board. So be a friend, tell a friend, subscribe, leave a like on the video, drop a comment with your guest recommendations for who you want to see on the pod. I don't care how big or small they are. Leave it in the YouTube comment section. And, of course, shout out to Shootout For Soldiers. And this has been episode number 341, a championship game and entry draft recap episode of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and, of course, viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Deej, KB, appreciate the fuck out of OTB Nation. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.